Previously, he had been an overworked doctor, thinking he could create a cure for every disease to make up for him losing his younger sister. Although this dream never occurred, he got reincarnated into a new world with the medicine god's powers. Thanks to his efforts in this world, he is able to open a shop within the capital, treating everyone who may come by, but with new diseases occurring rapidly, he is forced to make some challenging decisions. Episode 7. Before our protagonist, Falma, got kidnapped by the church, he had learned briefly about them. With the church being the largest group in the world holding power that can rival nations, they are not someone you want to mess around with. His hot teacher, Ellen, explains this to him, informing him of a previous clash the church had with the royal family. With there being a special group within the church called the Office of Inquisition, he questions what they do. Ellen explains that they fight against evil spirits and vanquish them from this world. Although all of this seems scary, she tells him that unless he did something bad, he won't ever encounter them. Now in the present, Falma faces off against the Grand Temple Inquisitor Salamon, calling him the Shadowless Boy. Once Falma confirms they aren't here in a friendly manner, he raises his guard. Salamon asks Falma why he acted so boldly, opening a pharmacy within the middle of town, calling him an evil spirit. Falma claims to be a human rather than an evil spirit, asking him what this is all about. Salamon then orders him to put his hands up and walk backwards, causing Falma to follow. He doesn't suspect much at first, but shortly after they cast a binding spell on him. Shortly after he expels the barrier, making them wonder how it's possible, the barrier being made to counter evil spirits. Falma tries to explain that he is just a human boy, but they ignore him, using their divine arts in the process. As the fire rages around him, Falma makes sure to use his water magic to expel the fire. With no words, he removes all of their traves of fire magic, causing them to try and use ice magic. Like the last time, however, the ice magic vanishes into mid-air, making them wonder who he is. As the battle continues, Falma tries to explain himself, but as you can expect, the temple men just keep attacking. This time with all of them combining their attacks with all 4 elements, even Falma has a hard time withstanding it. As the smoke clears up, they soon realize that they aren't a match for him, getting all of their attacks blocked by an ice barrier. Falma then strikes back, using his magic to knock Salamon off of his horse. Falma then raises the ice block into the air, asking them if they want to continue fighting. After seeing his overwhelming power, they decide to stand down, knowing they don't stand a chance against him. As they do this, they notice the holy mark of the medicine god on his shoulder. This makes them realize that he isn't an evil spirit, but rather a god himself. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is the worst injury you have ever had? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now, back to the recap. With this being said, they apologize and bow their heads, telling him they will accept whatever divine punishment they may have. With Salamon already injured, however, he begs for him to be the only one who dies amongst them. Falma tells him there will be no punishment, but Salamon doesn't accept this, pointing a knife at his throat. He attempts to end his own life, but Falma stops him. He then inspects his body and notices the wound he has using his divine eyes. Upon further inspection, he realizes that his leg is super injured, making it impossible to heal here. With this in mind, Falma realizes that he needs to go under surgery, recognizing some medicine won't be of use. Because of this, Falma decides to use his magic to make a table to place Salamon on in order to perform an operation. It takes some time, but after a bit of work, Falma sets up an area where he can safely perform the operation. He then gets all dressed up and puts Salamon under a painkiller, knowing it will hurt when he performs the operation. Once this is done, he confirms that he feels nothing on his leg and gets to work. Although it takes some time, he exits the tent and tells the others that Salamon is safe for now. He informs them it will take steady treatment to cure them, asking if he can visit from time to time to treat them. They accept his request, still thinking he is the god of medicine. After these events, a few months pass, and Salamon goes to visit his pharmacy himself after becoming the new bishop. Apparently, Falma never revealed what happened to the others, keeping his standing within the church solidified. Because of this, Salamon thanks him for his help and apologies once again for his misunderstanding. He then informs Falma that he has removed all records of there being a boy without a shadow, him still thinking Falma is the medicine god. He also tells Falma that if anyone tries to prosecute him from the church, he will personally deal with them. On top of this, he presents Falma with a large treasure chest with lots of soldiers by his side. Later that day, Blanche tries to enter the pharmacy but is stopped because he closed down shop during this meeting. Meanwhile, Falma is seen talking with Salamon, where he presents him with a new wand. With it being an ancient wand passed down by the church, containing some of the highest aptitudes for healing magic, it holds immense value. Although he is reluctant to even touch something so expensive at first, Falma accepts it. When he picks it up, the wand begins glowing, confirming Salamon's suspicion of him being the god. Falma tries to show it's not just him with this power, so he hands it to Ellen. Somehow it phases through her hand and hits the ground, showing that only Falma can wield it. Salamon tells him that only gods can hold this weapon, showing it's unfit for humans. Falma tries to tell them he isn't the god, but they don't believe him. Falma then notices a hidden feature on it, sitting on it and floating. Now with this out of the way, Salamon finally leaves him alone, wishing him the best of luck on his future endeavors. As he leaves, he reveals that he wasn't the one behind the carriage that destroyed his place, making him wonder who it could have been. He also presents Falma with another gift, giving him some little piece of junk. Falma acts like he enjoyed it, but gets distracted when his sister waves to him. He then goes shopping with his sister Blanche and maid, Lotta. With him being loaded, all of the store owners try to get him to come to their shop. As he buys the girls whatever they want, he starts to wonder what to do next. With his customers steadily increasing, he wonders if he should hire more people to run his shop. While walking, he overhears some girl complaining to another store owner for not having the same goods as his shop. The owner of the shop then walks over to her and tells her that because the guild forbids certain medicines, he couldn't sell them anyways. This gets Falma to thinking, wondering if he should establish his own guild. He proposes this idea to Ellen, hoping that he could sell his products to people to sell to others. Not only would this increase his own sales, but it would help other shops sell the goods he has as well. Episode 8. On another side of the capital is Varen, the leader of the pharmacy guild. Because of how well Falma's shop has been doing, he is enraged, wishing he had the blessings of people like Bruno or the Empress. He tells his people that they need to bring down the shop by any means, thinking he will lose more and more business if they continue to be open. He also demands to the others that Falma's license is revoked, claiming he will do anything to bring him down. One of the members of the group is hesitant of these plans, showing anger. Meanwhile, Falma walks around town until he spots a man banging on another's door, asking to treat his daughter. He sees this and proposes to him to come to his pharmacy instead, offering to check out his daughter. Although the man is hesitant at first to trust a child he knows with no other option, he should let Falma do his thing. Falma then guides the man to his shop, hoping to treat his needs. Upon arriving to his shop, the man is impressed to see various people showing interest in Falma, assuring him that he might be able to help his daughter. He is forced to use the backdoor way, causing him to think that he is being treated unfairly because of his standing. Falma then guides the man into his shop and asks him to lie her down. He also presents him with a mask to contain the spread of the disease, infecting others. Now, with them settled, he asks the man various questions about her health, writing it all down as he talks. Although the man thought he was a fraud at first, as Falma asks more questions, he begins to realize he is the real deal. On top of these various questions, he asks the man to place her on the scale to get her weight. With all of these tactics being foreign to him, he wonders what the deal is. Falma notices this, so he explains why taking the weight is important and why he goes to such thorough checks. Upon checking her out, he eventually uses his divine eyes to see her illness, instantly learning it. He then informs the man that all his daughter has is a cold, making it not too big of a deal. This raises questions for the man, thinking that his daughter had some severe cold or something. Falma quickly explains that it is just a virus that spreads throughout the body, so he presents him with a medicine. As usual, Falma gets ahead of himself in explaining, so he shuts himself up, telling him everything will be all right. Once he finishes his explanation, he lets her rest only to kick her out later that day. Falma also presents him with some medicine to take regularly, informing him if her cold ever gets worse, he can come back. Now, with all of this done, the commoner asks him the tough news, wondering how much it costs. Falma simply tells him that he needs to treat him to a meal sometime, leaving him to not have to pay anything today. Now that he is all taken care of, the man realizes why the guild can't compete with his shop. Later that evening, he heads home and writes down the various things he learned today from Falma's shop. He reveals that it was a noble shop, making his wife tell us that it's forbidden to use by the pharmacy guild. He wishes to have a power like Falma's, showing that he is also a doctor himself. Although he was powerless in this manner, he still recognizes how knowledgeable Falma really is. Even with all of this, he wonders if he will get punished for using Falma's shop. He wishes that he didn't have to follow the guild's rules, claiming they are set in place to rob the commoner. This story shows us a side of the people that used to never be able to get the help they needed, like Falma can provide. This brings the two to tears, wondering if one day the world will change. Meanwhile, after this happens, Veron bangs his fist on the table, wishing Falma's shop would disband already. Attending this meeting is also Pierre, the man who took his daughter to Falma's shop the previous day. He gets asked by Veron what he thinks of Falma's shop, so he answers honestly. He asks the men at the group if they have ever entered his shop, informing them it's much better than any of their own shops. He also tells them that he went to Falma's shop with the group, making Veron enraged. Pierre continues with his explanation, however, ignoring his hostile advances. He informs the group that whether it's commoner or noble Falma treats everyone who needs help. Upon hearing this, Veron only gets more angry, blaming his lack of business on Falma. He concludes his speech by calling Falma some stupid child who is using his noble influence to trick the people. Although he may seem like a bad guy, he happened to lose his own daughter because of the lack of medicine. He also explains that if Falma were to ever disappear, then the commoners would have no way of getting treated. Upon hearing this, Pierre asks the others why they shouldn't strive to be like him, showing he only wants to do the best for others. With advanced medicines and through explanations of the disease, he shows interest in Falma's shop. Enraged, Veron decides to expel him from the guild and later destroy his shop entirely. When Pierre goes back to his shop, he finds it in ruins, causing Falma to take action. He approaches him and asks what happened to him. Pierre tells him that once he told the guild the truth of him attending his shop, his license was revoked, causing this disaster. This makes Falma realize that he needs to hurry up and create his own guild. He decides to ask Pierre if he wants to join the guild he's going to create, promising to help him along his path. Apparently this very day, Falma received a letter back from the empresses, allowing him to open his own guild. With this being said, he reaches his hand out to him, hoping he will be the first to join his new guild. Pierre ends up following this, and later that week he opens his shop up again, this time with lots of Falma's goods. Although he thinks nobody will show up when he reopens his shop, he finds a huge crowd outside. This opens up a new world for him, making him realize even without the guild he can treat others. Episode 9. In another part of the world, a man named Camus gets abused by some temple persists, until a blonde-haired man, Bruno, emerges. With him being Falma's own father, he wonders what went wrong with this man. Apparently Camus was a top physician until one day when he started experimenting on humans. Now in the present, and Bruno wakes up from this horrid memory, still wondering why Camus started down the evil side. Later that day, when he heads to lunch, his condition is noticed by Falma, asking if he is all right. Bruno is then presented with a letter from the oldest sibling within the family, Pale. Within the letter, it tells us that his arrival will be delayed because of his work. With Pale being in the most prestigious academy in the world, he is currently learning from the best of the best. Although he may be a stud, he surely doesn't compare to Bruno, him being the medicine god. After lunch, Bruno talks with Falma about an upcoming event where lots of merchants gather. His father tells him that they need to be careful during this event. Not only did Pale's letter entail his late arrival, but also information about a disease spreading within his hemisphere. With it already taking over 1,000 lives, the real reason he is unable to come back is because of this disease. It also happens to be the exact country that brings lots of tourists over during this event that is being held. Because of this, Bruno urges Falma to move around with caution and start researching the disease now. Meanwhile, Pale is seen writing his letter to the others about this disease, with his head scientist getting a cold, fever, and eventually entering a coma. This disease is no joke. Another one of the scientists got black fingers, making it seem even crazier of a disease. Once he hears all of this, Falma asks for more information, thinking he might have some kind of cure already. Apparently, the only reason that the disease hasn't spread further is because they have been using his mini microscope to research it more thoroughly. Later that week, the Empress meets with her top attendants to discuss the public's health. With Falma's parallel world pharmacy making strides into the future, the people's health is overall much better. Because of this, she wants to give some kind of reward to Falma, but is unsure what to give. She proposes ranking him up with Archduke, but they tell her it would be immature to promote such a young child. They then move on to talking about other things while the Empress still thinks about Falma. She is sure that he is possessed by something, hoping that it's the medicine god like most others think. Falma, on the other hand, enters his pharmacy with a grim face. He meets with Ellen and tells her that soon a fatal disease will begin spreading within the country. As she talks about this, Lotta enters with a small sample of the disease for Falma to inspect. The second he opens the vial, his heart begins thumping, making him realize that a disease from his past life is here as well. He reveals this disease is called Black Death, a disease that took many lives. With this information, he sends out some of his messengers to inform the kingdom, knowing even he doesn't have a cure for it yet. While they are on their way, he tells Ellen that they need to get to work as soon as they can to try and prevent the spread. To start, he meets with Bruno to inform him about the disease, telling him everything he knows. He concludes that it's the Black Death, but his father already seems to know this. With the Black Death's last outbreak being 210 years ago, he fears that it might kill even more than last time. Falma reveals that in this world the Black Death took 60% of the population away from them. Not only is this the case, but a ship from overseas containing the Black Death is likely to come as this event starts. Bruno proposes they shut down all borders, but Falma stops him, revealing he has already started on a cure. Although he has started the cure, he is the only one to be able to produce it, so it's difficult to save everyone. With this being said, he asks Bruno to help him with dealing the medicine and increasing business in the process. This leads to them heading straight to the palace, getting access to close the capital's borders. Falma also proposes that they force everyone coming into the country to enter a quarantine before wandering. He also asks her to help him kill all rats and fleas, explaining it's the main cause of spreading the disease. Without a second thought, the Empress follows his orders and tells him she will follow wherever he may need. This makes Falma wonder if she knows his true identity, but he also knows that even if she does, he needs to persist in his medical advancements. Later that week, after getting everything passed by the Empress, he heads back to his lab where he meets with Pierre. Here he shows him his microscope along with 1,000 patients worth of medicine, in case he gets anyone who has the Black Death. He tells Falma that even if there is someone infected, he will strive to protect everybody, regardless of their condition. Falma then leaves Pierre with his shop, informing him he is going to the border to help there. In the meantime, the Empress meets with some of the others about the current reports. At the temple, Salomon also learns of what's going on, not paying it much mind. While everyone thinks it will be all right, Falma stresses, having the entire world on his back. Even though he realizes he's against one of the most deadly plagues in history, he still walks forward, knowing he has a job to do. Episode 10. After a couple days of travel, they arrive back at the beach town in which Falma's family has the beach house. Now with him coming back for different reasons, he resolves himself in preparation to deal with this plague. Once they arrive at the base, they are presented with various reports of different ships, informing him they are all negative results. With this knowledge, Falma begins getting ready himself, boarding each of the boats via a small boat. Although the sailors are angry, Falma ignores their reports, telling them this is a serious matter. With the sailor hiding some sketchy merchandise, he tries to dodge his questions but gets inspected anyway. Falma then goes to check out each of the sailors, making sure there are no ill people. With this ship being clear, he sends them to land, making the captain assured. After explaining all of the precautions, the physician on the ship is impressed, seeing how through he goes. Falma then heads over to the next ship, but is stopped when a captain throws an apple at him in anger. He demands that he gets checked next, wondering why he has to sit around for so long. The two continue arguing back and forth until they eventually start firing. Ellen wonders what's going on, but soon a captain explains to them. With these ships being under the Empire's rule, they tell the other captains that if they want to enter the Empire, then they need to listen to their orders. They then recognize the main captain as Jean, the old man who regularly enters the shop. He tells the other captains of Falma's feats and informs them if they have any issues, then they can deal with him. Thanks to his help, Falma feels more assured, going to meet with John, ignoring the other captains. As he talks, the rest of his crew thank Falma for the sweets he provides, revealing Falma has been helping the Empire's Grand Fleet this entire time. Following this, he heads back to the port and talks amongst others about the disease. Although they are preventing it from spreading to other countries, fatality rates have spiked to as high as 50% already. They know, however, with Falma's help, they have nothing to worry about. Then suddenly a man named Adam enters the tent and tells them a small port town to the west has been infected with the plague. Apparently some bastard entered the town thinking it would take too long to go through proper precautions, thus inducting the disease to their country. With this knowledge, Falma decides to head out right away, hoping to cure the people as soon as he can. As he runs off, Ellen tries to get him to stop, claiming he is the only one who can properly discern the plague and perform inspections. Falma, however, knows that she is just as capable as he is, so he orders her to do the inspections from now on. With this, he uses his godly wand to float into the sky and head to the small village. After a few hours of traveling, he arrives in the town and wonders how it spread to their area. He knows that if he wants to properly treat it, then he needs to stop the ship from entering another town. As he thinks of where it could be, he messes up and runs into a tree, but somehow phases right through it. This makes him realize this wand not only is able to fly, but also allows him to completely phase through any walls. Finally, he arrives in the town and finds tons of people evacuating and acting out. As they try to escape the plague, Falma suddenly emerges before them. He tells all of them to head back into the village, claiming the disease will spread if they leave. This angers one of the men, so he walks up on Falma, reminding him that his life is on the line here. As they shout out to Falma, they eventually start to think that he is an evil spirit who cursed their village. Falma decides to just go with this, telling them even if they leave, the evilness will still linger. He then realizes that they aren't helping at all, so he places a barrier around the entirety of the village made of ice. With this display of power, he gets some silence and begins explaining himself. He introduces himself as a royal pharmacist, urging them to follow his orders to prevent the spread. With all of this being said, the villagers decide to head back into the village, knowing their pointless remarks aren't working. Falma then begins talking with each of the leaders of the villagers. He first decides to segregate the infected from the non-infected to help prevent the spread. On top of this, he tells them he will provide medicine for whoever becomes ill. Meanwhile, Jean notices a ship that is off course and refuses to head to their calls. They deduct that this ship is definitely the one who spread the virus onto land. Because of this, they surround the ship and force them to stand down. As they get closer, they notice that the entire ship is littered with corpses, showing all of the crew members have already died. With this knowledge, they decide to sink the ship, knowing it would only hurt them more if they tried to save them. Jean tells his men to treat this sinking like a funeral, preparing to launch fire. Before he does, he starts thinking of Falma's words, realizing if they had listened to him, this would never have happened. Without further ado, he commands them to fire, thus hitting the ship and sinking it into the ground. Episode 11. While all of this happens in the capital, various nobles and important people talk about the disease in a panic. As they talk, some old lady tries to help others, but she gets her request denied. Apparently, this lady is Professor Casper, a teacher at the School of Pharmacy, one of the best schools in the nation. With her being older than everyone else in the nation, they ask her if she will retire soon. She ignores their rude remarks and heads back to her lab to get back to doing her job. As she inspects a bacteria, one of the students tries to assure her she is important. Then suddenly a girl enters and tells Casper that the president of the academy wants to meet with her. On the other hand, Falma is still working at the small village, hoping to find and treat all infected. After a bit of inspection, he finds a room filled with the ill patients, lying on the floor. With tons of other doctors within the room, they protest his arrival, but one of the members stops them. He introduces himself as one of Salamon's men, bowing down to Falma in the process. He explains the situation to the others, and they leave Falma to get to work. Falma then approaches each patient and presents them with medicine that he provided. Although he is confident he can treat the barely ill ones, he knows those who are already 3 days in will die. As he inspects them, he learns that only a couple will end up dying, if even, making him assured that he can treat them. He then goes to talk with the others about the disease, and he presents them with medicine in the process. While some require more through magic to heal, a majority of the people are easily saved. As he heals them, he begins to realize every extra second he stays here is another chance of the plague spreading to the capital. Because of this, he decides to give the others direct orders, making sure nothing happens. Ellen, on the other hand, is seen running things over at the port town, doing her job perfectly. With her current methods, Ellen is confident that she can prevent the spread until Falma gets back. Although she is doing her part, she wishes that she could have been as powerful as Falma is. She diminishes herself, but one of the attendants assures her that she is just as good as he is, performing the ship inspections much faster than he was. This raises her spirits a bit, but she still knows that she falls short of his power. Professor Caps, on the contrary, meets with Bruno about this disease, him asking her to help. She gives him various reasons why she is a bad fit and why she shouldn't help, but he assures her she is needed. This makes her realize how big of a job it really is, so she begins freaking out. She thinks that she is too old to help, but with her being one of the best doctors in the kingdom, he knows she is needed. Bruno then presents her with a report from Falma and tells her that they have already started their research, but needs her help as well. She then informs him that thanks to her research, she has already made an antidote unknowingly. Thanks to this, Bruno makes sure to reward her greatly. He also tells her that her retirement will need to be put on a halt. Meanwhile, within the port village, Falma works day in and day out. He tells the chief that although he has saved some people, there are still those who he was unable to treat. Although this may seem like bad news, the village is overjoyed, knowing that they won't all die. Falma then informs them that he needs to get back to other lands to treat it, but he plans on leaving them with various precautions and cures to help them while he is gone. He then leaves the village, hoping that the rest of the capital isn't infected with the disease as of yet. As he heads back, he notices a fire erupting nearby with some men from the rogue ship. He tells them that he will try to help them, but because of their antics, many people died. He asks them where the rest of the cargo is, to which they inform him that they brought squirrels onto the land. With these squirrels being the cause of death for an entire island, he realizes just how much damage these men caused. He then learns that there are more men that were left behind heading straight towards the capital. With the group being accompanied by holy knights, he realizes that this spread wasn't just an accident. With the Empress previously being infected somehow because of an unknown source, he wonders if the holy knights were behind her illness as well. As he thinks of what to do, he decides to treat the men who spread the disease regardless of their antics. While this happens, the Empress learns of the rogue ship that brought the Black Death into their kingdom. Bruno informs them that although they have dealt with a majority of the rogues, there are still some headed straight towards the capital. With this knowledge, she decides to shut down all borders and increase security around the capital to ensure it doesn't spread within. Meanwhile, Lot is seen treating the sailors that successfully entered the kingdom by passing proper inspections. Pierre is then presented with a new batch of specimens from the border that entered, making him realize it's the Black Death. He sends various men to shut down the border, but as he does, an explosion nearby occurs. Not only are they being invaded by the Black Death, but they are also under attack from the Holy Knights. They use all of their forces to break through the border, showing this is indeed an act of war. With the Holy Knights sending in men to spread the plague directly, everyone enters a panic. They know even though this is happening thanks to their efforts, they still have the Falma's medicine to help. Then suddenly, the Holy Knight brings out a cargo box containing the white squirrels. He sends a wind to cause the squirrels to spread throughout the town, hoping to infect everyone. Pierre learns of this and orders everyone to kill the squirrels as soon as they can, claiming they are the cause of the spread. He sounds the alarm, causing everyone to go into their houses, hoping it will help prevent the spread. As this happens, everyone hears the alarm sounding from their respective homes, realizing it's finally time they have to face the plague directly. Episode 12. Within the capital, the Empress learns of the reasoning for the alarm, hearing that 5 holy knights from a neighboring country have invaded them. Although all of this is happening, the reason for the attack is still unknown, making the Empress wonder what their motive is. He asks Bruno what he thinks, but he is also unsure. He tells her that if there is anyone who he thinks could be behind this, it would be a pharmacist from the kingdom that went rogue. He also happens to know this man, it being the man from his dream Camus. With him previously being renowned as a genius who advanced their medicine remarkably, he knows this man very well. Although he had his divine arts sealed years back by the holy knights, he still suspects that this man could be behind it all. With this knowledge, they wonder if the previous king of the kingdom also died because of his antics. As this happens, the holy knights continue to invade the capital but struggle to move forward thanks to the kingdom's efforts. Although they may stop them a bit, they are all pushed back, causing the big shots to enter the fight. With Solomon appearing on the scene, the holy knights realize how big of a mistake they made. Solomon uses his power as one of the highest-ranked priests to strip the holy knights of their divine art, using the power of God. Lotta sees this and gets scared, but also knows that they can't neglect the people getting affected by this. She tells Cedric, another employee of the Parallel World Pharmacy, this, but he informs her it's already too late. Just when they think all hope is lost, Falma appears at the capital, ready to fight the virus head-on. He gets to a vantage point and starts checking the surroundings, where he notices the white squirrels running amok. He also spots the holy knights being dealt with by Solomon. With all of this knowledge, he decides to go talk with Bruno to learn of the current situation. He then heads over to the subdued knights, where he learns they are all acting under someone's orders. With this man holding someone of importance hostage, they were forced to follow his orders. They claim that he is possessed by an evil spirit, causing Bruno to enter the conversation. He asks the knights if he matches Camus' description, to which he does. This confirms his suspicions that Camus is the one behind these attacks. He tells Falma this, and the two prepare to fight back, knowing it won't stop unless they take him out. Then suddenly, the alarm stops sounding, causing Lotta to think everything is all right now. She heads back to the pharmacy, but as she does, Falma feels an ominous feeling. He looks around and sees a black shadow encasing a figure in the distance. He decides to run to his shop, knowing that if he is targeting something, then it would be his shop. As this happens, Lotta finally gets back to the pharmacy, still not knowing that Camus has already invaded. She sees the windows to the shop open, so she thinks that Falma is already inside, so she decides to enter. As they head inside, Cedric soon notices that something suspicious is going on. He tells Lotta to stop moving forward, but she continues up the stairs, eventually arriving at the lab. She looks around thinking Falma is here, but he is nowhere to be seen. With the lab being completely silent, she wonders what's going on, but is soon stopped. With Camus stabbing Cedric in the back and heading towards her, she thinks all hope is lost. As this happens, Falma finally arrives at his shop, scanning the area. He finds the shadowy future standing before someone else, so he heads inside with utmost caution. Upon entering alongside Bruno, he finds Lot and Cedric on the ground with Camus standing at the side. Bruno tells Falma to treat the others while he deals with Camus, hoping to tie up a loose end. He tells Camus to face him, but as he does, he has the appearance of a half-dead man. Falma, on the other hand, inspects the others but realizes they have a poisoning unknown to his knowledge. Because of this, it takes him time to inspect the potential illness, going through every possible poison. He figures out one of them, but soon realizes there is more than just one poison within the group. Because of this, it takes him a long time to cure, allowing Camus to throw Bruno to the ground. As he gets thrown around, Bruno is eventually defeated, allowing Camus to move towards Falma. He tells him that he is here to make others experience the pain he once did, wishing he had a lab like this. He tells Falma that thanks to his lab, he will be able to bring pain upon many people. While he goes to poison Bruno, Falma stops him, using his divine power to stop his advances. This diverts Camus' attention to him, allowing him to spare his father's life for a bit longer. He then wastes no time to strike Camus, pushing him farther away from his father. This angers Camus, so he asks Falma why he doesn't understand him despite how powerful he is. He claims that one day Falma will be taken over by his own strength and become an evil spirit just like himself. This only angers Falma more, so he uses his power to throw Camus out of the shop. He follows this attack by a pound to the face, giving him the perfect chance to launch his ultimate attack. With the combined strength of his own powers and the godly wand, he defeats Camus like a beast. This cleansing ends up creating sparkles seen around the entire kingdom. Salomon recognizes this as the medicine god's power, making him sure that Falma is in fact the medicine god. After this happens, the others walk out of the shop uninjured, showing his efforts weren't in vain. Lotta sees all of this and goes to thank him, realizing just how much he cares for the people. Following this, with the combined efforts of Falma and the others, they stop the spread of the plague, saving the kingdom. Although they saved most people, there are still those who couldn't be saved. Varen specifically gets enraged by seeing how worthless his efforts were during the entire plague. 2 months after this whole ordeal, Falma is called to meet with the Empress. Here she announces to the kingdom that they have successfully created a cure for the Black Death, causing the entire kingdom to go about their days like it never happened. On top of this, the parallel world pharmacy is able to reopen shop, serving the kingdom just like they had done previously.